Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome to a new video. Today is going to be a review of the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. I'm going to show you both my first impression of the foundation as well as a week's worth of use of the foundation. I think first impressions are really fun to watch and they can tell you a lot about how the average consumer is going to view a product upon first use, but I also don't find them super helpful in terms of how a product actually works in the long run. So when I do these videos, I like to do both a first impression portion as well as a longer term review, trying out different application techniques, just trying different ways of using the product so that we can get the most out of the foundation and I can give you a really full rounded review of the product. I have a lot to say about this foundation, so I'm just gonna get right into it. So Airbrush Flawless Foundation comes in 44 shades and costs 53 American dollars. You get 1 fluid ounce or 30 ml, which is standard for a foundation. It's got this beautiful frosted packaging with a pump, which is really convenient and clean. I'm gonna start out by reading you guys some of the claims from Charlotte's website about the foundation. I do also want to mention that I was given this foundation for free because I do sometimes freelance for Charlotte Tilbury here in Toronto. However, they don't know that I'm making this video. Okay, so Charlotte's website says, Airbrush Flawless is makeup magic that meets skincare science. It's stay all day, weightless, full coverage with a natural matte finish. She says it's transfer resistant and humidity proof. One of the ingredients inside is called Magic Replexium, and Charlotte's actually the first person to use this in a foundation, and it's been proven to reduce wrinkles by up to 22% with continued use. There is an air-cool technology, which gives an instant fresh feel on the skin. I did notice when I was reading the ingredients that there's menthol in there, so I feel like maybe that's what the air-cool technology is, I'm not sure. She says there's Magic Moss Cell Tech, which gives the skin a 216% hydration boost throughout the day. And it also contains CT Defense, which is designed to limit exposure to everyday pollutants. So it says here in quotes, Airbrush Foundation does everything from redness to rosacea to acne and pigmentation. The groundbreaking formula suits all skin types and all skin tones. So one thing I do want to mention about this foundation is when you first apply it, it does dry down to a darker shade once it starts to settle into the skin. If you're color matching yourself with this foundation at Sephora or wherever, in person, you do want to make sure that you're allowing the foundation to sit on your skin for a few minutes before you decide if it's the right color for you or not. I do want to mention that too because I feel like a lot of the Sephora reps maybe won't take the time to actually let the foundation sit. Maybe they don't know or they just don't take the time to do it. So you do want to let the foundation sit and just dry down a little bit before you choose your color. The foundation comes in 3 different undertones. So as you go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they go from light to dark. And then each of those numbers has different undertones. So like there's 4 warm, 4 neutral, 4 cool. Not all the numbers come in all of the undertones. And sometimes the thing about the undertones is that they don't really look the way you think they're gonna look. So for example, I think it's shade number 8. When you swatch shade 8 cool and 8 warm beside each other, you would think they would be reversed because the 8 cool looks a lot warmer on the skin than the 8 warm does. So when you're color matching, don't go by what you think you are. Just grab a few of the shades in the number that you might think and then go from there. The foundation does have a bit of a scent that kind of puts me off, to be honest. Charlotte doesn't use any fragrances in any of her products. I mean, she hasn't in the past. Let me check this one. Yeah, so I don't see any artificial fragrance in the ingredients. So with Charlotte, any of her products that have a scent, the scent just comes from some of the ingredients that are used in the product. So something in this foundation has a smell to it and it's pretty off-putting for me and I'm not usually very sensitive to smells. The scent obviously does go away really quickly. You can only smell it when you're first applying it. And I can't smell it when I'm putting it on other people. So you don't have to worry about other people smelling your foundation and it does go away quickly. So what I'm gonna do now is let you guys see the first impression that I filmed for this foundation. You'll see me try the foundation for the first time and wear it throughout the day. And then afterwards, we're gonna go through a few different clips of me using it throughout the week, and I'm gonna talk about how I was using the foundation differently and what I did to get the best wear out of the foundation for the way that my skin is right now. So here's the first impression. Okay, so let's get started. For primer today, I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. This is my favorite moisturizer, and I use this every time I do my makeup, especially because this is a matte foundation. You really want to prep your skin with a good hydrating moisturizer so that the makeup doesn't look dry or cling to any dry patches that you might have on your skin. Are interested in any of the Charlotte Tilbury products that I talk about today, I'm going to have links in the description box down below where you can click to read more about them and to shop for them. My skin is very dehydrated right now. We're going through a change of season here in Toronto. So we're kind of going from summer into fall. We've definitely hit fall. We're kind of on our way to winter. Definitely over the past few years, I've noticed my skin getting quite dry compared to how it normally is, especially at this time of year. So just want to make sure that I've got a ton of moisture, and I love the Magic Cream for that. Okay, so Airbrush Flawless Foundation has a pump. I'm gonna go ahead and pump one pump onto the back of my hand. I'm using the shade 4 Neutral. I'm not sure if this is going to be the perfect match for me right now. I do have a little bit of a tan from being away, so we'll see how the color is, but I think we should be able to make it work. I'm also gonna apply this foundation with my Real Techniques Expert Face Brush. I typically like to use a buffing style brush, which is a brush that's sort of rounded on top and is dense with bristles. I like this for more full coverage foundations because I can really buff them into the skin and make them look really nice and natural, or as natural as they can. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of the foundation off the back of my hand, apply it to my face, and then we're gonna start blending. I have heard that this foundation looks really beautiful with the Hollywood Flawless filter mixed into it, so I'm definitely gonna try that at some point this week. My favorite foundations are ones that are very luminous. I do like some fuller coverage foundations for going out though, like when I'm doing more dramatic sort of glamorous looks. The full coverage foundations that I love the most are the Dior Forever and the Clinique Beyond Perfecting Foundation and Concealer. I exfoliated my skin twice this week. So if the foundation sort of sits on top of my skin, that's not gonna be a good thing because my skin should be really nice and smooth. And the reason I say that is because I'm starting to notice the foundation kind of sitting on top of my skin. So that's one light layer. The color seems okay. This camera that I'm using doesn't have a zoom lens on it, so I'm gonna just switch quickly to my other camera for close-ups. So here's how we're looking. You can see how full coverage the foundation is because I don't have any around my eyes, and you can see like the natural tone of my skin around my eyes and how the rest of my face is sort of all one color. So it's definitely, looking at it here, a little bit too light for me, but I feel like once I start to lose my tan, this will actually be a pretty good color. One thing that I am liking and noticing in the camera is how much my skin is glowing through the foundation. So that's gonna be that Magic Cream underneath there, shining through that full coverage foundation. I'm gonna go ahead and build up the coverage a little bit. Because that was just one pump of foundation, I wanna see how it would look building up a little bit. So I'm just taking a second pump on the back of my hand, and I'm gonna put that in the areas where I feel like I need a little bit of extra coverage. So I have some acne scarring on my cheeks that's quite discolored. I have to say, I really don't like the smell of this. So I have used this foundation on clients, but I haven't tried it on myself yet. And I hadn't noticed the smell when I was using it on other people. I feel like smells in makeup though, you get used to them and they don't usually bother me for too long. So that's 2 coats. We're at like a super, super full coverage here, which I do like. So I like the look of it in the camera, on both cameras actually. But up close in my magnified mirror, I feel like I can really see the makeup sitting on top of my skin. I'm gonna try and show you if I can get my camera to focus on me. So like especially on my nose. You can see it here too. And this is where I built up the coverage. So up close, I'm really noticing the foundation sitting on top of my skin. So what I'm gonna do to help with that is take my damp beauty blender and use this to try and pat that foundation into my skin so that it's actually in my skin and not sitting on top. Yeah, so this is helping a lot. So this might actually be a full coverage concealer that I prefer using a sponge with. I'm gonna have to try next time with just a sponge first and see how that goes. So I'm just gonna take a couple photos, one with natural lighting and one with the studio lighting, and then just see how we're looking in photos. Yeah, so I think it looks really good in both, to be honest. Thinking this might be a really nice foundation for a special event, maybe a wedding or a graduation, maybe a good foundation to keep in your kit. But I'm not loving the way that it looks on my skin up close. I do kind of feel like it's picking up on a little bit of my texture, and I can see the foundation there. So this goes back to me preferring light coverage foundations that are more luminous, more dewy. I think part of the problem is that I'm just not used to wearing a full coverage matte foundation. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off my makeup. I'm filming a makeup tutorial. That video is gonna be up before this one, so I'm gonna leave the link for it right up here and in the description box down below. If you want to check it out, you can hop on over and watch that one before you come back and finish the end of this one. Hey guys, so I just wanted to pop on here quickly and do a little check-in on my makeup before the sun sets. There's a couple things that I'm noticing about this foundation on my first impression. I'm definitely noticing it sinking into my smile lines here pretty badly. The first place I ever noticed aging on my face was in my smile lines, so I'm pretty sensitive about that area. Pretty much every single foundation creases there, but some are a lot worse than others. This one is definitely not the best, but also not the worst so far in terms of the settling in those little lines there. And then you can also see how dewy the foundation is looking. So even though this foundation is marketed as a matte foundation and it goes on like a matte foundation and it looks matte on my skin in a way, it's kind of hard to explain, but this glow is really coming through, which looks really, really pretty in, again, the footage. It looks really pretty in real life too if you're not looking too close up to the skin. But yeah, it for sure looks like I'm wearing makeup in person. So I just wanted to check in and show you where we're at before we lose the sunlight. And I will probably check in one more time before I take off my makeup. Okay guys, so I'm just getting ready to make dinner and I'm not gonna lie, I really wanna take my makeup off. So I'm gonna finish this first impression off here. I have been wearing the foundation for about 6 hours. And you can see that it looks super dewy. So I keep mentioning that because I'm actually very surprised about that. The foundation is marketed as being super matte. It's clearly got a lot of life to it. And yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't really like super matte foundations, so for this to have this much glow, I think it's actually a good thing. The lines in my smile lines have not really gotten any worse. What I would typically do is just take a Q-tip and just remove the makeup from there so that there's just no makeup in that area at all. And that's how I usually solve that problem. I feel like, I don't know if, you know, I just thought for a second that the coverage was kind of wearing away in here because you can see like a little bit of pinkness. But I'm realizing that's actually my blush, and normally my blush wouldn't be so strong after wearing it for 6 hours. So I don't know if that has to do with the foundation or not, but the fact that my blush is still like as if I just put it on is really great. And yeah, I think it looks really pretty. I think it looks better now than when I first applied it in terms of the cakiness of it, like the way that when I first put it on, I felt like I could really see it on top of my skin. And now that some of my natural oils are starting to come through and the foundation is kind of wearing in, I feel like it looks a lot better now than it did when I first put it on in terms of like an up close view. I'm really looking forward to trying this out over the next couple of days. I'm gonna try it with a different application technique. I'm gonna try maybe setting it. I didn't think I was gonna set it because of how matte it was, but because it's so dewy, I'm wondering if maybe I will set it next time. I'll try a few different things and I will update you along the way, and then I will of course give you my final review at the end of the week. So as you can see from that first impression, this foundation somehow manages to be matte and luminous at the same time. I really don't know how that's happening. It could be the magic Moss Cell-Tech technology that is hydrating the skin throughout the day. But yeah, somehow it does manage to be matte on the skin, but still look glowy at the same time. So the first thing that I want to talk about with this foundation is how incredibly full coverage it is. In this clip right here, you can see I have it on one side of my face and not the other. And as I'm applying it throughout the other clips as we go along, you're gonna really see how much the foundation just completely covers any discoloration in my skin. It completely covers any redness, hyperpigmentation, acne scarring, darkness. It does a great job of evening out my skin tone and completely hiding all of that. I actually, at the end of this week, I was excited to go back to my Light Wonder foundation. Another foundation from Charlotte that's kind of the exact opposite of this one. It's really, really light coverage with a dewy finish. And when I used that foundation and I was finished doing my makeup, I was really shocked to see how much of my acne scarring was showing through. So in the week of using the Airbrush foundation, I really got used to having all of my acne scarring and hyperpigmentation covered by foundation. So if you have rosacea, any acne scarring, any darkness, any discoloration, anything on your skin that you want to cover, this is going to be a great foundation for you. Considering the foundation is so full coverage, it really does have quite a light texture. The foundation is quite a liquidy consistency, especially compared to other full coverage foundations that I have. Really don't need much, and a little bit goes a very long way. So you can see here how smooth and glowy my skin looks, and how the foundation is really just blanking out any color in my skin, covering my acne scars, everything. So I did mention in my first impression that I wanted to try setting the foundation because of how glowy it was in my first impression. I figured I would try setting my entire face with powder. I do want to say that at this time, my skin was feeling very dry. So at the beginning of the week, it was probably the driest skin I've ever had on my face in my entire life. I wasn't even super dry compared to other people, but I was super dry for me. And I did notice that the foundation looked really bad on the dry areas of my face. So my chin and my nose looked really, really cakey. You could see the foundation sitting on top. And then in these clips of the foundation, you can see from far, you can't really notice, but when I zoom up into my face, you really can see the foundation sitting on top of my skin, especially on my nose, my laugh lines, my chin. But then here we are at night, and I've worn the makeup all day at work, so I've probably had it on for about 8 hours here. And you can see the foundation looks a lot more luminous. It's settled into my skin, especially on my nose and chin in the areas where I was previously pretty dry. So the foundation does look better the longer you wear it, which is something I always say about Charlotte Tilbury foundations, actually about a lot of foundations in general. I do feel like once they mesh down into your skin, some of your natural oils start to come through, that they just start to look a little bit better, a little bit more natural. So the longer you wear this one, the better it looks. But you can see in those first few clips how dry my skin looks overall. So I definitely would not recommend setting with a powder, especially if you have skin more on the dry side. And to be honest, if you have dry skin, I'm gonna tell you to skip this foundation, because what I found on those first few days of the week was that it really just did not look good on my dry skin. However, on the flip side, what that means is if you have normal to oily skin, this foundation is gonna look beautiful on you. It's going to mattify the skin in a way because it is a matte foundation, but it's still gonna look fresh. But yeah, I definitely do not recommend this foundation for anybody with dry skin, unless you're using it mixed with the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This guy right here. If you've been watching my channel, you know I always rave about this product. You can use this in a bunch of different ways. It gives a highlight to the skin without any any glitter. It gives almost like a wet look to your skin. I had heard that the Airbrush Flawless Foundation looked amazing with this mixed in. That did end up being my favorite way to wear the foundation, especially when my skin was feeling a little bit more dry. I did this again for my makeup today. My skin is still feeling a little bit more on the dry side, but definitely not how it was at the beginning of the week last week. This clip right here is me with drier skin, but having mixed the Flawless filter into the foundation before I put it on. So granted, this is after a few hours of work, so probably another 8 hours of wearing the foundation, but you can see how glowy and beautiful my skin looks. I've got the ring light sort of reflecting off it, so it's quite a dramatic look. But you can see it right now as I'm talking to you. I just applied the foundation a few minutes ago. My skin just looks really glowy and healthy. It's got that really nice full coverage, but you can't see any makeup settling up into any of the dryness that's going on my face. So if you have this product already, I definitely recommend using it with the Airbrush foundation. If you have normal to drier skin and you're thinking about picking up this foundation and you want your skin to look more glowy and fresh, but you want to get that full coverage that I was talking about that's so great about this foundation, I would definitely recommend picking this up as well. You can use this in a bunch of different ways. So this is just another clip of me applying the foundation. My beauty blender definitely ended up being the best way to apply it. I didn't even try to use a brush again after the first time because the damp beauty blender was definitely the way to go. I really like this clip because I think it does a great job of showing how full coverage the foundation is, but how sort of beautiful and glowy it looks, especially with that Flawless filter mixed into it. This is a clip right here from the end of that day, and I'm actually just gonna go ahead and touch up my makeup a little bit because I felt like I was a little bit too glowy. We're verging on oily here. You know it's rare for me to say that. I was going out for dinner for my girlfriend's birthday, so I had already had this makeup on at work all day, and I was heading out for dinner. I didn't want to take off my makeup and reapply, which actually brings me to another point. I always take my makeup off after work and reapply it before going out again. I never do this. I never touch up my makeup and then go out again after work. I didn't even consider taking this makeup off and reapplying it because the foundation still looked so good after having been at work all day. Like I said, it just was a little bit too luminous, so I set my nose and through my T-zone with a little bit of my Airbrush Flawless finishing powder just to kind of mattify that area a little bit. But the foundation lasts for so long. The other thing about it is that it somehow magically keeps the rest of your makeup on for even longer as well. So like my concealer, my blush, my highlighter, my bronzer, everything stays on longer on top of this foundation than it does without it. So here you can see how all of my makeup looks. I turned the lighting down just so you can sort of see the texture and everything on my skin a little bit better because the lights do kind of wash it out a bit. You can see how like glowy my skin looks. A little bit of my acne scarring is showing through, but I do think that that's actually more from me applying my bronzer. So I've talked before about how when I use a powder bronzer on top of a liquid foundation, it kind of wipes away some of the coverage. So I do think that that's the reason why my acne scarring is showing a little bit here because I did wear powder bronzer that day. I've been using a lot of cream bronzer where I just pat the cream bronzer on top of the beauty blender, and that helps me to avoid losing the coverage in that area like a powder bronzer does. But yeah, I think that's why my acne scarring was showing through just in that like one little area on that clip there. I unfortunately did not get a clip of me when I came home this night. So I actually ended up wearing the foundation from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. this day. So that's 9, 10, 11, 15 hours. I wore the foundation for 15 hours. And I'm gonna say, for having it on for that long, it looked great. The coverage was still there. It was still holding up. It did not break up in the areas where where foundation usually does break up on me, which is sort of in the center of my forehead, on the tip of my nose, a little bit like on this inner part of my chin. It just held itself together really nicely. What do I think this foundation would be great for? Definitely any kind of event where you want your makeup to look really good for a very long time, this foundation is super long wear. If you're gonna be wearing a more dramatic makeup look, or you do more dramatic makeup looks on a regular basis and you want to completely take all of the color out of your face and then reapply it with your contouring, your highlight, your blush, sort of reshape your face through your makeup, or you really want your eyeshadow to stand out or your lipstick to stand out on top of a really nice neutral base, then this foundation is going to be great for that. If you have oily skin and you want a full coverage, more matte foundation, but you don't want it to be like drying, then this is gonna be great for you. Who is this foundation not for? This foundation is definitely not gonna be for you if you have any sort of dry skin whatsoever. There are definitely better foundations for people with dry skin. If you have dry skin and you're looking for a full coverage foundation, the thing about full coverage foundations is that full coverage foundations are matte, light coverage foundations are dewy. That's just the way it goes. So if you have dry skin and you're looking for a full coverage foundation and you don't want it to be matte, I would say maybe you could give this foundation a try, as long as you're willing to work with it a little bit. So if you're willing to also pick up the Hollywood Flawless Filter, or you already own this and you can mix this in with the foundation and you have dry skin, I think that you could make it work for you. Also, if you mix a little bit of moisturizer into the foundation before you apply it to your skin, that's gonna help too. It is gonna sheer out the coverage a little bit, but you're still gonna get a nice full coverage, and it should be hydrating enough if you have skin on the drier side. If you have super dry skin, I would skip this altogether and just go with something different that's more hydrating, like the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wonder foundation. The other person that this foundation is not going to be good for is somebody who doesn't wear a lot of makeup. So if you like to just put on foundation and mascara and concealer and go to work, this foundation is not going to work for you, because it's going to take all of the color out of your complexion and it's just going to make you look dead and pasty. It's also going to be very obvious that you have foundation on your skin because you haven't gone in and added bronzer or blush or highlight to sort of add those contours and like peaks of the face back in. It's just going to end up looking really unnatural, and it's gonna make you feel washed out even if you have a color that matches you. If you wear very little makeup, or you have very dry skin, or you have skin on the drier side and you don't want to be using mixing products to make the foundation work for you, then it's not going to. Overall, I do think this is quite an innovative foundation from Charlotte Tilbury. She does a great job of innovating with her products, honestly, and I've never tried a foundation like this before, and I've tried a lot of foundations, both from the drugstore, high-end, and luxury brands, and I've never tried a foundation like this where it somehow manages to be both a soft matte finish and a glowy foundation at the same time. I love how long wear it is. Even my other full coverage foundations that I love, I don't think are as long wearing as this one. And I really love the way it holds onto my makeup throughout the day. I love that my blush is still showing after hours of wearing the makeup. That's amazing. If you're looking for foundation for your wedding or another special occasion where you want to have really beautiful, flawless makeup that's going to last you for a really long time and you don't have dry skin, then this foundation is really going to be great for that. It looks beautiful in photography. It looks beautiful on film. Overall, I'd say the foundation is going to be great for some and terrible for others. I'm gonna wrap this up here because I have a feeling this is going to be a very long video and I didn't want it to be. But like I said, I had a lot to say. If you're unclear about whether or not this foundation would work for you, leave me a comment down below in my comment section. I read and respond to all of my comments. You can just tell me a little bit about how your skin is, what you want the foundation to do for you, and I will let you know whether I think you should pick it up or not. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up so that more people can see it too. When you thumbs up the video, or thumbs down the video, to be honest, any kind of engagement with my channel is gonna tell YouTube that the content is interesting, and YouTube is then gonna show it to more people. If you don't wanna miss out on future videos that I have coming up, then hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.